There is a ton of interest about investing here in the Dominican Republic. And in today's video, I'm gonna share with you what I would do with $1 million if I had it to invest here in DR. And even if you don't have that much money to invest, you're gonna see how I'm breaking it down and where I'm thinking based on my experience of living here and analyzing this market. So anyone who's looking to buy down here, this video is for you. Plus, I'm gonna answer 10 of your questions that you have sent me right here on this AMA video. Let's dive in. Salty Sweetie asked, if I was going to retire there with $1 million, how would you invest it? Well, Salty Sweetie, first I'd choose. Which one are you, sugar or salt? Come on. But then I would do this with $1 million. I'm taking $1 million liquid and I'm gonna invest down here. I'm gonna be focusing most of that money here in Punta Cana, but I'm gonna break it down for you just like this. Let's throw it up on screen. I would take $400,000 and I would invest that in a condo in Punta Cana Village. I would take $300,000 and buy a villa in Vista Cana. I would take $200,000 and buy a 2-bedroom condo somewhere in Cap Cana. And then I would split the remaining $100,000 between Miches and Cabo Rojo, Pedernales, to buy land there that I eventually can build on or just hold it for the long term. Now look, there are many other places that are good investments. Las Terrenas is one of them. Cabrera, Rio San Juan, Barahona, Santo Domingo, Santiago, Jarabacoa, many more. But I know what I know, and I know where I want to invest. It's always the old saying, right? Like invest in what you know, or stick with what you know when you're investing money. So for me, I understand the dynamics of Punta Cana. And when I say invest in those specific places, there's a reason for it. And I'll go in order on them. Punta Cana Village is the most stable investment that you can make. It has tremendous upside for the future as it is the premier family community in, I think, honestly, the entirety of the Dominican Republic. So I say buy there because you'll get appreciation value and I would live there. That would be my first place that I would choose to live. It's walkable and it's a great neighborhood and a great environment. However, Vista Cana is, I think, the next premier neighborhood in this area, and Punta Cana in general still has a lot of runway to grow. I would want to own in Vista Cana. This way, I've got something I could rent out long term. Something people don't realize about Vista Cana. It's not an Airbnb spot. It can be, but I would rather rent to people like a regular renter. Annual lease. Vista Cana is a great spot for it, especially now that there's a school being put inside of Vista Cana. You're attracting more like, I want to move there, I want to live there, whether it's buying or renting. So I'd want exposure to Vista Cana for appreciation and cash flow. And that's with long-term renters. And then lastly, there's Cap Cana. It's a premier development. It's beautiful. It's got a ton that it offers in there, including a lot of luxury. St. Regis and Sanctuary and all of these resorts like the Hyatt, which is one of the top ranked resorts in the world, are all inside of Cap Cana. So when you own real estate in an area where there's a lot of luxury, you're going to get appreciation. And I, for $200,000, I believe will be able to find something that's desirable as an Airbnb. So if you look at it, those three options so far, I've got my secure investment that I own and live in. And if I needed to rent it out, it'll cash flow in Punta Cana Village. I've got my future investment in the next big neighborhood in Vista Cana, which will cash flow as a long-term rental. And then I get to dabble, baby, in Airbnb and get myself some short-term funds out of Cap Cana. Those would be the three. Then the land of Miches, the land in Cabo Rojo, that is just saying, hey, I see where this is going. I want to be involved in that. Now, the interesting question would be like, what if you don't have $1 million and you only have 200,000? Do you follow the same order? And I don't think you do. What I would do if that's the case is this. I would take $200,000 and I would buy in Cortacito Corrales because those areas have the most potential upside for a single investment, and they are by far the best Airbnb markets right now. Coming with $1 million allows you to buy into the future. That's the way I look at that. It's $1 million, which means you've got buying power to place your money and watch it grow. If I got 200 grand or I have 100 grand and I can get a loan for the other 100 grand, Cortacito Corrales is absolutely where I would go. And that's where I bought. I bought at Cortacito Corrales, and then I'm going back to what I said. My big buy is going to be in Punta Cana Village as we're under contract right now. Hopefully it goes through. But that property will be our home that we own in Punta Cana Village, and then we'll rent in Cortacito short term. Hand me another $500,000, Vista Cana, Cap Cana, here I come, baby. Just watch. Oh, and I should say, what am I saying? I also am getting ready to buy in Miches, piece of land in Miches, which a lot of people are very interested in Miches. And if you are, the land where I'm buying is actually part of a larger development that should be closed and under contract, and the individual lots ready to sell soon in the next few months. Down in the caption below, there's a number of links I'm going to refer to. There's one that says Miches. If you click it, you put your name on the list, you'll be on the wait list for when that development in, or that land in Miches goes live, and I'll make sure you get reached out to by the developer so that you could buy your plot in Miches. They're like 20 grand to start. Pretty cheap, so I'd encourage it. I do have to make this one point though on this question. If I was going to retire with $1 million, how would you invest it? Salty sweetie, pretzels and Skittles. That's what we should call you. If this question is more like, I got $1 million, period, to my name, and I want to move to the Dominican Republic, I would not do what I just said. What I would do instead is I would take $1 million and I would put it into an S&P 500 index fund in the United States, and I would live off the returns. Let's get a little nerdy for just a second. Just indulge me, especially for you retirees. Let's get into this. There's something called a total return strategy. And what that looks like is you have $1 million, you stick it into an S&P 500 index fund, and there's an amount of dividend that comes back, and then of course, growth of it over time. Now, over the last 50 years, the average annual return on the S&P 500 is 10.6%. There's some highs, there's some lows in there, years that go up and down, but smooth it out over 50 years, it's over 10% return on your money. So if you drop $1 million in it and then wait a year and let it grow to 1.1 if it hits the average, and then you go in and you execute a strategy, like I said, called total return, and with that you pick a percentage. Let's say it's 6%. That means that what you're saying is every year I'm going to scrape 6% of the portfolio value off the top and pay myself with that. So on that 1.1 million, it's like $66,000 that you would take home. $5,000 a month living in DR, it's pretty good. Then every year after that, you execute the same thing, where if it hits 10% on average, then sure, then you'll keep 4% building on top of the $1 million value and 6% comes out. So you're always building up the amount that of that first $1 million, and you're taking some money out to live on. Now, of course, that's not how it works. Every year goes here or there, goes up and down. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. So what I did is I looked at the last 20 years and the exact return per year, and then had it use those exact returns and project forward the next 20 years. And here's what it showed. You can see year by year the fluctuation. You start out in the 60s, you jump into the 70s, and then it drops to the 40s and back to the 50s before recovering to the 60s and 70s and really getting momentum as you get into year like 15, 16. But there's income there. And again, this is assuming that like what happened in 2008, that year, is included in the projection going forward. And what happened in 2020 because of COVID is included in the projection. Who knows what the future brings, but it just gives you a sense of if you invested $1 million and took the 20 past years and said, let's say the next 20 years do the exact same up and down thing, what do you take home and what is your portfolio value? After 20 years, your million is 2.3 and you're taking $150,000 using a 6% total return strategy. Way in the weeds, people, but this would be how I would spend that $1 million or invest that $1 million if it was all of my $1 million. Just to be clear. All right, Carol Alonso is asking, if you had $500,000, where would you park it other than DR? I like the question. I know it's similar to the last one, but I do have a different answer. If you're not going to invest in DR and you're not going to do what I just described, the total return strategy, there is another investment that I would make with $500K. And again, to be clear, this is my thoughts. I'm not an investment strategist. Do your own due diligence, consult, and make sure you do things that are comfortable for you and that you know. But here's what I would do. In the United States right now, real estate isn't the future play. It is small business acquisition. There are baby boomers and people in their 60s and 70s right now that don't know what to do with the business that they built, and their kids don't want it, and they don't know how to sell it, and they don't want to do it anymore. That is where there's a lot of supply and less demand right now. There's a lot of demand. There are people trying to buy these businesses, but there's still a lot more businesses to buy than there is demand for the buying. So if I had $500,000, I would look for a partner in the States that's younger, that I could pay or be an equity partner with, and I'd put my money behind them, buy a business that cash flows enough for them to get paid and for me to get some money as a passive money partner only. Maybe it's a kid, maybe it's a relative, maybe it's a friend, I don't know. But the idea is if you buy a cash flowing business now with $500K, you can leverage it. You can buy a $5 million business with $500K because of different loan programs that are out there. And if that business generates enough income to pay for a partner and or top employee while you travel once a quarter to go check it out, make sure everything's good, but live your life in DR on the cash flow, that, my friends, is how I would spend that 500 grand. Sheila Enriquez, I guess, HNRQZ. I'm going to go with Enriquez. Do you invest in property there? I alluded to this in the beginning part of the video. And yes, we've invested in a 1-bedroom condo in Cortecito. Again, I believe it's the best, well, I know it's the best Airbnb area in Punta Cana. And we're buying a property for ourselves in Punta Cana Village. That is maybe not an investment, but it is for ourselves and for the future. If and when we ever leave the DR and move back to the United States or to Europe in 5 or 10 years or whatever, if that ever happens, then that property for us would be a great cash flowing property because it's in a very high demand area in Punta Cana Village. So yeah, we're buying in those two areas. If I'm looking across the whole country, I mentioned a few spots like Las Terrenas and so on. But again, I'm big on the belief that Miches, Cabo Rojo, Barahona, maybe Jarabacoa, places where, and Las Galeras, places where there's not a ton of development yet, get yourself a cheap piece of land and let it ride up. Still in Rio San Juan and Cabrera, where A-Rod bought the $1 billion thing with investors, that area still has affordable land to buy, and you're seeing that it's going to be heavily developed by Playa Grande and everything else. I would look there if it were me. But yes, we're investing locally. Rafit88 says, do you see an issue with short-term rentals in DR, perhaps cancellation of Airbnb? The answer is no. I don't see any issue with Airbnb going away. There are developers literally building in Airbnb features to properties that they're building. Like, it's here to stay, especially in the tourist areas like Punta Cana. What I do see though is a bit of a correction in the Airbnb market specific to certain types of properties. Being really specific here, people that are buying in, say, like the downtown area, and their plan is to buy it and afford it with Airbnb income, I think that is a huge mistake right now for a few reasons. One, downtown is still developing its infrastructure. They are building residences way faster than, say, the roads and the drainage and everything else that's needed there. So downtown, I think, has a big future, but it still needs a lot of infrastructure investment before it's gonna have that. The other part is, like, nobody wants to rent downtown. So if you think you're gonna just buy this condo amongst a sea of other condos that are being built there and just throw it on Airbnb and rent it, I think that's a big mistake. There's not luxury downtown. It's much more about efficiency and future living and so on. It's a vacation property. You should treat it that way, which means buy it, hold it, don't expect any income to pay for it. Just, it's gotta be something you can afford and then you use on occasion. And man, if you get an Airbnb or a friend that rents it when they come down, awesome, you make a little bit of income, but don't plan on it. The strategy for downtown is to buy, hold, move there, or sell it later, because the value will go up in time. But the strategy is not to Airbnb. So Airbnb will be around, but the Airbnb markets are on beach and near beach. If you're away from the beach too far, it's not Airbnb. That's why I said with Vista Cana, which is a great community and a ton of development there, it's not a good Airbnb market, because it's just sort of downtown, it's centralized, it's not a beach community. There's some Airbnb in there, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't plan on that. However, long-term rentals, absolutely. Maybe that's a strategy downtown because there's a lot of business happening there, so look into that. Something tells me downtown isn't quite ready for that either. There just doesn't seem to be that livability there where like Vista Cana has that. That's why it's getting the attraction of long-term renters and it's getting families moving there and all of that with the school. But that's my take on Airbnb. Let me give you a quick example. I had a guy reach out and ask about buying a property, and he said, it was like a 3-bedroom for under 100,000. And I said, man, I think you need to either flex your budget or your expectation of what you're gonna get. Like, meaning maybe it's smaller, maybe it's a different area or whatever, because it's just not gonna be great. And he replied and said, no, I found some stuff in my budget for a 3-bedroom, so I'm good. Thanks anyway. And I kind of went like, okay. Because here's the thing. To buy at that price for that size of a unit, you're probably gonna be buying in an area like Verón or Friusa, which are fine. But if you're relying on any kind of cash flow for those places, I think you're gonna struggle. Even long-term rent, I think you're gonna struggle. However, if you're executing on the long-term strategy of saying, like vacation property strategy of, I'm either gonna move into it and I like the area, or I can afford it without getting any money from Airbnb or rental, God be with you, go for it. But you have to be mindful that the cheaper the property does not mean that the Airbnb demand is going to be equal. You gotta spend more money, and in the right neighborhoods, the right areas, near beach is the best return in order to get the Airbnb dollars. But Airbnb is here to stay. That's my take. La Uba Uno says, is it best just to invest in Punta Cana area in the city nearby? La Uba, maybe. Punta Cana definitely has a lot of runway, still a lot of growth. But like I said, I think you have to be patient depending on where you're investing, and the best investments are gonna be in the more premier areas. Punta Cana is going, no doubt, the luxury route. I can prove that to you. In fact, I've heard that from very, very accomplished people that are literally creating this area, that luxury is selling in Punta Cana right now. As things correct in the US and get a little weird, the middle class buyer and traveler is not going to be spending money here. DR's got to get their money. Where are they going to get it from? It's from the luxury sector, who don't suffer from recessions and corrections and consumer confidence issues like the middle class do in a country like the United States. So I think it's the safest to invest in Punta Cana, but it is getting to a point of being the least risky, and as a result of the least risky, it means it will generate the least return. If you're asking me where to best invest, like I said earlier, it's land in areas that haven't popped off yet, like Amiches or Pedernales. But it's really hard to say there's a bad investment that's near a beach. The only one that gives me caution is in the La Romana area. Doesn't mean it's bad, but I just feel like that area, I don't hear the attention there from the government, from infrastructure, from where they want to develop, like I hear in Miches and Barahona and Pedernales and Valle de las Águilas and all these other parts of the country. Punta Cana still, Santiago, Santo Domingo, Cabrera. There's just attention and focus in these areas. I don't see it in La Romana. The other one, if you want like a far off option that nobody's talking about and won't be for a while, but come back to this video in a few years, you're gonna be like, that bald dude called it. That's Punta Rusia. That area up in the north by Cayo Arena, like a Punta Rusia, first of all, that beach is one of my favorite ones to go to in the entire world, let alone the country. It might be my favorite one ever, Punta Rusia Beach. But that area has a ton of potential. There were some land sales that got a little weird with deeding in the past, so some people will warn you of that, but it's like, look, get good lawyers, make sure everything's on the up and up, and you'll be just fine. But where to invest and all of that, that's really up to you in the end. All right, Annie Lisa says, hi Jamie, what do you think about Kabay investment or living there? Thanks so much. And then she had a follow-up. You're never answering questions about Kabay. Why? I'll tell you why. It's funny, I just had this on my live call, which I do every Tuesday with the Inner Circle. When I am publicly sharing information about developers and neighborhoods and everything else, I have to be mindful of the fact that this is consumable by anybody. And I certainly don't want to be in a position of disparaging or saying anything about anyone that can be taken as defamatory. Like whole areas like La Romana, I could say that, or like,
hey, I don't like this resort.
That's one thing. But if I call out a developer that's good or bad, there's consequences for that. So publicly, I'll only tell you about the developers that I invest with. And that is really at this point, Boardwalk Properties. Again, I told you there's links below. If you want access to their portfolio, click the Boardwalk link, get your name on the list, they'll reach out. Now, Kabay is a well-known operation up here in the Hard Rock Complex. There's a couple of different developers in there, Kabay being one of them. I know some people that have lived there. It's fine. It's a little further away than most things as far as like grocery stores and all of that. So living there, I could tell you, I haven't heard good or bad. I just heard like it works, but it's far away. But as far as investing there, you know, it's hard for me to opine. That's why maybe you feel like I'm not answering this question. It's hard for me to opine on a developer publicly. I do in the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is my space to jump in and share with people all of my real raw thoughts because it's a more intimate setting. In fact, the guy today on the call said, man, I wasn't sure about this whole thing. You know, $9 a month for what, but getting some pretty good value. I'm like, that's all I want to do. I want to add more value than I would ever ask for. So if you're interested in being a part of that, you can click the link. But that's where I get a little bit more raw. I do raw tours of different communities. I'll do the ones on YouTube for Vista Cana and different communities. But then here I'll go a level deeper and I'll show just like rolling around with my cell phone and give all my thoughts on like, I don't like this, I do like that. Check out the Inner Circle if interested. Manzano Fit, FOMO means fear of missing out if you didn't know. How long will it stay a good financial decision to move back to DR? I get the gist of this question. I would say that moving back here should not be a financial decision per se. We can get into taxes, but that's in another video. I think moving back here needs to be a lifestyle decision. Is it right for you? Does it fit? Does it feel right to live here? But the question I think is like, man, at what point does DR sort of hit its apex and it no longer has like a runway? There's two answers to that. DR is a big place. There's a lot of different areas. Miches is different than Punta Cana, is different than Cabo Rojo, is different than Jarabacoa. So different areas may reach their saturation point before others. So keep that in mind. DR is a big place. So if you're asking the total of the country, I think there's a tremendous amount of time before this whole place hits its saturation point. I just mentioned Punta Rusia, which is on nobody's radar. So in 5 years, when the first person goes in and says, oh, this is pretty cool, we haven't seen this, everything else is developed around the country, let's come here, there's gonna be a massive runway there. But if you're asking about areas like Punta Cana, I don't think that it's close to its saturation point. Punta Cana has Dubai-like potential, and as things become more luxury, higher end here, all that does is drag value up. Even the stuff that's in downtown, if it's surrounded by luxury, or if luxury buyers are coming here, and therefore they're buying in luxury stores, so the malls need to elevate the level of luxury that they sell, even those downtown condos become worth more. You see what I'm saying? So lots of runway, I see still. I see a lot of upside, still. All right, Hustler24 asks, how is the sargassum in the Cap Cana area? Terrible. Sargassum right now in the general Punta Cana, like the southern part of the country, terrible. It's a bad year for it. There's a ton of it already out there. Actually, there's more than it. There's tons of it already out there, and it goes many meters deep into the ocean right now. I'm hearing even that it made its way into the Cabarete, Las Terrenas, even a little bit of Miches, which is never heard of. I've never heard of it going up there before. That's true or not true, you can validate, but I've heard that from some people. Here's the reality with sargassum. Starting around late May, early June, ending in sometime in September, you're gonna see it. It's gonna be around. What's interesting though is it seems like there are periods throughout the summer months when sargassum is its heaviest, where it goes light, they clean up a lot of it, and it's actually not too bad. There's like a week in July or August or whatever where it's pretty clean. And then it comes funneling back in and fills up everything again. So Cap Cana, Punta Cana, all of it is experiencing sargassum issues. And they're starting to build gates and that sort of thing to try to keep it at sea, but it's the ocean. It's gonna breach it, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. Very powerful force. What we do in the summer, we just kind of stick to the pools. We go to Dorado Water Park, we do those sorts of things because going to the beach isn't as fun in the summer months. And truthfully, it's freaking hot right now too. So there you go. Jason Pena, 212, strategy for securing a home in DR even though my retirement is about 10 years away. Jason, here would be my strategy if I'm 10 years away. I would go and buy a villa in Vista Cana, or a condo if that's what you would prefer. But I would go buy that, maybe pre-construction, takes a few years to build, I can pay it off over the next couple of years, and then I own it and I can rent it out long-term until I'm ready to move into it. That to me allows you to capture Vista Cana where it is right now with the upside that's coming from an appreciation standpoint and cash flow along the way, or at least break even while you get it ready for you to move in. And 10 years from now, when you move in, that community, I believe, will be thriving. It'll be bustling, it'll be energetic, it'll be a great place to be, and you're gonna be the smartest guy in Vista Cana because you listened to the gringo 10 years before. You see? Yeah. But hey, if it doesn't work out, I don't know, I just told you, you gotta do your own due diligence. It's not on me. Last one here, Doroyo68. It's not really a question. It says, don't dare invest or retire there due to government's immobility on Haitian issue. Seems getting worse. So Jason, maybe you need to take Doroyo's advice. I don't know. But here's my take on that, the Haitian issue and getting worse and all of that. Haiti is Haiti, and it's a mess. Recently, the United States just reissued the travel advisor they do every year, and they left it at a level 2. They didn't increase it because they don't see, obviously, the Haitian issue spilling over into the Dominican Republic. It's a worry, and the DR government needs to stay on top of it for sure. The other part is deportations. And look, I'm gonna show you what they've been doing in this country. This is for USA before. This is what it looked like before protests and before the massive deportations. Government went in and did some things, and this is what it looks like now. It's actually kind of sad. Hate them, love them, whatever. Haitian workers here do a lot of work to build up infrastructure and build buildings. Their houses were leveled. That whole community was leveled. I get it that there's going to be attention placed on Haitian deportations, and then when the news cycle slows down, maybe there's not as much attention. And even now, many are saying labor is kind of back to where it was. Maybe if deportations are more strategic, maybe there's just not as much attention, I don't know. But this issue, while it has merit to be concerned about it, it doesn't make DR more dangerous, and it doesn't make DR less investable. In fact, another piece of evidence as to how the international community views DR despite these issues is the Summit of the Americas was selected to be here in Punta Cana in 2025. This happens every 3 to 4 years. All the American nations come to it, and Donald Trump is coming to it. I know. Some of you out there are like, you said the T word, and I don't like it, so noise. And some of you were like, Trump, baby, yeah. I don't like either of you. I gotta be honest. You're both deranged. Both suffer from TDS. But he is the US president, and the seat of the presidency coming to the Dominican Republic for the first time ever means something. Look it up. First active US president to visit DR on DR soil. That's never happened. Nixon, as a vice president, is the highest level official to visit DR as an active member of the government. Presidents have come after they've left, like Bill Clinton and all these guys. But in office, no US president has ever come. DR is in a moment. DR is being viewed as a strong democratic country with strong GDP growth, with a developing middle class, with a developing infrastructure around manufacturing, and it's got the eyes and ears of the international community from a real estate investment standpoint. It's a darling right now. And the Haitian issue is it's not going to derail it. That's just my take. It's my opinion. It's my assessment, let's say, being here on the ground. So be mindful of that sort of rhetoric saying, oh, this place is going down. Look, I've been coming here for 15 years. I've heard it for 15. If you're a lifetime Dominican, I'm sure you've heard it your whole life. Hey, Eric, how long over the course of your entire life have you heard that Haiti's going to ruin the Dominican Republic? Have you heard it once or twice?
Yes.
Every day? How old are you now?
I'm 39.
40-year-old. He's heard it for 40 years. You know what? One day somebody's going to be right, but there's no projection of that as we sit right now. Just my take, people. Listen, all of this helps, but the bigger thing is how do you do the due diligence to make sure you're not going to get screwed when you buy an investment property? And the good news is I'm going to share that with you right here. Check out that video. It'll go over everything you need on due diligence here in DR, including an attorney that you can use if you need one. I can refer to you. So check that out, and I'll see you on the next one.